and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source Listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Welcome to Platos Cave, broadcasting to you from Australia, the land down under, for Revolution Radio on revolution.radio. Home to the most successful and largest listener-funded radio station on the internet. I'm sure that's still true. You can listen to us on any platform, including at home on Gray's Tabletop Digital Radio. If you see us in the wild, please like, subscribe. That all helps. And thank you so much for all our new subscribers. Really appreciate it. And thank you for everybody that's been listening and watching our shorts. Thank you so much. It really helps. So here's to you. And if you like the content, which a lot of you did, we're going to make a lot more where that came from. This is listener-funded radio, which means that you, the listener, hold the purse strings. If you can, please do donate to the station. None of the hosts are getting paid. They do it all pro bono, gratis, for free, umsonst. Nothing down, nothing after. So everything you hear here is free content, but it is not free to run the station. So if you can donate Bitcoin, any kind of cryptocurrency, in fact, gold, silver, diamonds, bring the diamonds. Any donation is good, but maybe you can't, because I tell you, things are getting more expensive every day. In that case, just why don't you tell people about the station? That's good too. Tell everybody about the station. That's awesome. If you can, please do. It's really, really helpful. Very helpful. And if you like our content, listen to our content. Watch our content. It's videos now, and our videos are pretty good, even if I do say so myself. Before we start broadcasting at you in anger, we would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land from which we broadcast. And for Dave,
I'm broadcasting from Darkinjung country.
Thank you, sir. For myself, of course, it's the Darak people. And with that, we would like to pay our respects to elders past, present, and future. Yes, sir. Is he dead? Is he dying? Is he unwell? Oy vey. I don't know. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't. All I can say is this. No president of the United States, Dave, and this includes George Bush Jr. and Kennedy and Lincoln, I want to say, has ever generated so much media attention. Mm-hmm. Ever. Donald Trump will go down in history as the most media savvy, I want to say, in many ways, president ever. He's in front of the camera all the time. I was thinking about this. For all intents and purposes, and I'm happy for you to disagree if you don't see it this way, of course, but for all intents and purposes, Dave, I think the Donald second presidency, or second term, if you will, is a reality TV show, because it's all open, like it's open book. The cabinet meetings are open. He's got reporters all the time. I think he gives more interviews than any president before him, and even conversations that were hitherto behind closed doors, like with other the heads of state, etc., are now, not all of them, but a lot of them are out in the open. Right? I mean, we will never forget the Zelensky meeting he had a few months ago in the Oval Office, right? What do you think about that?
It's like they're filming the live documentary series that they'd put out after his presidency. If you've seen the making of anything after seeing the film, for instance, they had cameras following them 24/7, and afterwards they would edit together a package, that's what it's called, and then they'd be able to put that to air or put it on the DVD or on the Blu-ray, whatever, as their behind the scenes look. We're actually you're right, Mackie. I agree with you that this is probably the most televised president in the history of presidents. But we're also getting fed in the behind the scenes shot every single day. If there was ever a case of any news is good news, that's what his team is promoting.
No such thing as bad publicity, right? Mm-hmm. As long as your face is captured by camera, you're a winner. Yeah, it's amazing. I'll tell you what else is amazing. This is really a couple of things. I don't know if you've heard about it. I only found out about it this afternoon as I was clicking through a couple of the Young Turks broadcasts. But I want to talk about something else first. The Epstein files, the Epstein case, Jeffrey Epstein. He's been dead such a long time. The creep. Why are we still talking about him? The creep. We're still talking about him.
Or the Bill Gates one. But he's dead.
Bill Gates. He's dead. No.
Sorry. Should I be doing this with my hands? I don't know. Or was it Hillary with the moustache? Who knows? All of those memes were tremendous.
There were.
But the file's empty, Mackie. There's nothing in it.
There's nothing in it. There's no file. In fact, there's no file. There was never a file, and all the files have been burned. Except nothing could be burned because there was nothing there to be burned in the first place. You're going to be cold in winter if you're burning that file. There's nothing in it.
Well, they just put it with all the stuff that, they've burnt before. Like, I don't know, 9/11. Yeah, just make a big pile. Yeah. What is this, Guy Fawkes night? Uh-huh. Yeah, that's what it is.
It is Guy Fawkes night. Hello, Parliament.
Every night.
No, we don't condone any violence. But it's not going away, right? This is the critical thing here. So it's not going away. What they've done now, they've released the actual birthday book, because before we have only ever seen a mock-up of the birthday book where allegedly Donald Trump had an entry where he says happy birthday and then there's a whole bunch about a secret, whatever, right? Now, but the thing is this, right? It is not going away. Now, nobody should be surprised by this, okay? Because ultimately, right, why did Donald Trump get elected? Why? Now, when he first was elected, there were a number of reasons why he was elected. And let's go through them. Number one, the most important reason, in my opinion, why he was elected in the first instance, not the second time around, was because he was not connected to the Washington mob. He had no connections to any of the politicians. He wasn't a political player. He wasn't part of the establishment. He had never served. He didn't come from the CIA, like the Bushes, for example, right? Nothing. He had never been a functionary, never been a party official, nothing. The people thought, we need something new. Okay, and then the Democrats, in their infinite wisdom, put Hillary Clinton forward instead of Bernie Sanders. Now, I think Bernie Sanders would have won. That's my opinion, but that's neither here nor there. It happened, and the people didn't really get what they wanted out of Donald Trump. That's not his fault. But the key reason why they didn't get what they wanted out of Donald Trump is, number one, he was inexperienced and he didn't know what to do, which, fair enough. It's not an easy thing. And secondly, he had people around him that didn't really do what he wanted them to do. And finally, of course, and this is probably the biggest whammy, was the whole SARS-CoV-2 lockdown, shutdown, whatever you're going to call it, right? So those things really hampered his first presidency, in my opinion. So you didn't really get a good taste of Trump. You got a lot of chaos. You got a lot of ideas and some things. He did a few things which were good, which he then promptly undid when he became president again, which I thought was hilarious. A lot of the things that he put forward, a lot of the people that he appointed, he didn't like anymore, which is also funny. But so we got that. But then the second time around, we knew what to expect, more or less, and I think we're all taken aback by the speed with which he has proceeded to engage in this presidency, right? But the key thing is, in the second run, not the first run, but the second run, more so because he didn't get the time in the first run. It was about cleaning up the swamp. It was about cleaning up Washington. It was about
the swamp.
Yep. Yeah. It was about, exactly. It was about getting rid of the pedophile Satanists, the Bohemian Grove celebrators, etc., etc. All that stuff that didn't sit really well with the conservative American people. From the Bible Belt, from the rural areas of America, where, I guess where people are more traditional, certainly in their views, much more traditional. And a lot of the stuff like wokeism, it's called. I mean, I was never a big fan of wokeism. I'm a fan of equal treatment, and I'm a fan of a meritocracy. That's what I'm a fan of. I'm a fan of the best person for the job. That's what I'm a fan of. I'm not a fan of just putting someone in there because of something, unless it's because they're actually the best person for the job. If there's some other criteria like nepotism, color of the skin, other handicaps, that's not really. That's not really fair. I don't like quotas.
You could say the best person that you can afford.
Well, yeah, but look, even beyond the affordability criteria, I'd like the best person for any given situation. But fair enough. There's an affordability factor here as well. Okay, so that's what I think. So he's done a few things. He's done a few things that upset a few people, but he did say a few things, and he did run with Kash Patel and Dan Bongiorno and a few others. He did run on a bunch of I don't want to call them conspiracy theories, because the truth is that it's much more than conspiracy, right? And what I'm talking about here is 9/11, JFK. I'm talking about of course the Epstein case overall. I'll talk about it in a second a bit more. Now, these are not conspiracy theories, okay? These are conspiracy facts. You don't just kill an American president, okay? And certainly not if you're Lee Harvey Oswald. You don't do it. The lonely shooter theory, the lonely gunman, is a complete nonsense, okay, in my opinion.
Well, the magic bullet was a complete nonsense.
Correct.
There was more than one bullet, and they had to describe it just being stationary inside the vehicle for 1.5 seconds. Mickey, I've sent you a link, which is Tracking Trump's Presidential Promises, which I know you will enjoy.
I'm sure we'll. The key thing here to understand is that, in fact, it was best captured in the court scene with Kevin Costner in the movie JFK by Oliver Stone, who also used Jim Mars's book JFK for its research and movie making. And the best scene is when he's in the court explaining the path of the magic bullet. I thought that was really, really cool. Now, where did you send it? Here we go. I got it. Now, the interesting thing is this, and I don't know if you've seen this, and I'll come back to JFK and Epstein in a second, but 9/11. It's been, well, I mean, it's 2 days. In 2 days' time, it'll have been 24 years since September 11th. 24 years. That's a whole generation of people that was born that wasn't alive before 9/11. In between now and then, 24 years is a long time, and a lot of people. And I watch them in the news. And remember Tucker Carlson? You know Tucker Carlson, right? Dave? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so what Tucker Carlson?
100%.
Tucker Carlson has made a documentary about 9/11. Okay, and he's actually looking at it from the conspiracy side of things, the unanswered questions, and he's releasing it on the anniversary. On the 11th of September is when he's releasing it. Okay. And he said the 9/11 report, the big, thick thing, complete nonsense. It's a whitewash. Ridiculous. And he was interviewed by the British guy, Niels Pearson or something. I can't remember his name. Whatever. He's a British guy, reporter, whatever. And he's bringing it all up again. He's bringing it all. Tucker Carlson is deep diving into all the crazy things that happened on 9/11. Okay? It's happening now. So, let me draw you a picture here. Now, this is getting a lot of oxygen now, the 9/11 thing, because of the anniversary, because Tucker Carlson is actually releasing, and I'm looking forward to it, to be honest with you. I'm going to subscribe to his channel just to see it. And he will address all of the things, and there's been a bit of a preview, as I said, when he's been sitting for interviews. So I'm hoping, because what I realized was this: when people were talking about this on the Young Turks, on other networks, these are fairly young people, I guess, on it, in their 30s or maybe even 40s, that were very young 24 years ago. They don't really have the context. They don't know all the things that happened. And I realized that only dinosaurs like you and I, Dave, remember all of the things that just that weren't quite right that day. And that made me a little scared, because, well, how come? Are we the only ones that are going to remember this? Yeah, are we the only ones truly that are remembering what happened on that day, and all the things that went on before? Are we the only ones? Are there so few people left now that it's almost impossible to get someone with the knowledge anymore, at least in the news media, unless they're really old. Okay, this is a real problem in my mind. So he's releasing that. I'm looking forward to it. Epstein falls in the same category. He is now associated with the Mossad, with the CIA, and lo and behold, with the Russians as well, being an asset for the Russians. Jeffrey Epstein, that is. Something that we've been saying for donkey's years here on the show. Okay? We have been saying this for a long time, because none of the current politics, none of the current events make any sense if he were not associated with those guys, and if they didn't have his material, his compromat, if you will, on Donald Trump specifically. And Donald Trump is still doing his utmost not to release anything, to steer his people away from the Epstein conspiracy. He's doing his utmost, including, even though I think that was probably more a response to Putin, Xi Jinping, and a few others getting together, and Modi in China, calling the Department of Defense now the War Department, which he can't do, by the way. He can't actually rename it. So it's still called officially the Department of Defense, but it has a secondary name, which is the War Department, because only Congress can rename a department. So it has to be act of Congress. But yeah, so we have all of these things now coming to a head. Like I said, Epstein, I didn't think it was going to go away. But what I'm astounded by, Dave, and I want your take on this, please, is the revival of the 9/11 in-depth analysis of what happened that day by Tucker Carlson, of all people. What do you think?
Well, it's probably about time that someone did something with it. That's what I think.
What about the timing? What about the timing of it, though? Right?
Is it too soon? So, I think the problem here is that as it fades into the past, the message won't change anymore unless something big can come out because of it. And I don't know if Tucker's going to hit the mark. I'd like him to hit the mark, and I'd like to have Trump help him get there. I'd like all of the files released. Yes, we are in that group. We're in that generation that saw all the anomalies, and we were listening we had an ear to the ground and heard all the right things at the right time, and saw it with our own eyes in the live broadcast, which is pretty much deleted now. There's too many questions, and there weren't enough voices giving us the right answers. And then all the suspicion started to build with the Bushes, the cousin, the insurance. There's too many things Flight 93, 4 frames from the Pentagon. Where's the video from the hotel roof or the petrol station? Nothing. You won't see any of it. It doesn't exist anymore. And if people are smart, from the perspective of the people who are trying to keep it all under wraps, you won't say anything. And that's the problem.
Who?
It is a really big problem, and it lends itself to, do you trust the government? Well, you should never trust any government, ever. Ever. Do you trust the officials? They're lying more than the government. Do you trust anyone that's bought in or owned or sold to the idea? No. You can't trust any of them. So, and I'm not saying that I'm not anti-government. I'm just not. I know what they are. It's like a used car salesman has more credibility than a politician. And that was the result of a survey that was done by the Australian ALP back in the late 90s, early 2000s, 25 years ago. Who do you trust more? And it was friend, then family member, and then all the way down, doctors and blah, blah, blah. And then your child's teachers. And then all the way down the bottom was used car salesman. And then below that was politician. And that's the position that the Australian people took. And I think we'd be wise to maintain that perspective, because if they're not honest with you, why do we vote for them? If they're not honest with you, how can we trust a single word that they say? Now, isn't there a phrase, Mekki, that as if a politician's talking, they're lying?
That's as soon as their mouth is moving. That's
yeah,
right.
The mouth is moving. Yeah, they're lying. So
how do you know they're lying? Their mouth is moving.
Exactly. So because of those, these are all embedded in our civilization as phrases for our political system in the countries where you're allowed to have those thoughts. So, am I wrong? No. But look, if Tucker Carlson could pull this off, it's going to be a ratings winner. It'll really put the focus on the incumbent during that era, who might have wanted to sit there and listen to the end of the children's story, and all of those people that were in and amongst that and knew what was really going on. And and for shame for those people involved. But it's just another black flag, just a false flag. That's what it was.
Look, correct. Now the thing is this: with 9/11, interestingly, we analyzed all the people that benefited from it, and the list is as long as your arm. It's astounding, and this is how you know something was planned for a long time and really, really well. Because there's one saying in politics: never let a good crisis go to waste. Right? And what this means essentially is, if something happens, something catastrophic, something bad, irrespective of whether or not you're responsible for it, you get the most mileage out of that thing that you can.
Absolutely.
Let me give you just a couple of examples as to what happened during and after 9/11. Right? So 9/11 is a massive event, but it triggered a bucket load of other events. So first of all, it got rid of 2 buildings in New York that had to be cleaned up of asbestos. Larry Silverstein insured those buildings for $1 billion each, paying out double if they go down or if they're destroyed in a terrorist attack. What foresight! what brilliant foresight! Now, in and of itself, by itself, I know, yeah, months. In and of itself, you go, okay, well, coincidence, sure. Building 7 contained federal offices, FBI and others, that had case files specifically to do with the Clintons, and that went up in smoke. Poof, gone. The the former head of security for the Clintons was in charge of security for the towers and was killed in the attack.
Wasn't it a Bush cousin?
No, that's a different story. but yeah, we'll get to that. But more than that, right? What came out of the 9/11 attacks was that people were shorting the airlines specifically that were attacked, meaning that someone made a lot of money. So someone knew beforehand that something was going to go wrong. Again, if you take any of these events that I'm just about to mention to you by themselves, you go, oh yeah, well, whatever, coincidence. But they all happened simultaneously. Israelis were arrested, or Mossad agents, as we know now, filming the collapse of the towers, and asked what they were doing there. They were sent there to document the event. That's what they said. They were sent there to document the event. By whom? And how do you know this event was going to happen? What? Okay, fine. All right.
Coincidence.
Over there. Another thing. Yeah, coincidence. That's right. Another thing that happened was that these planes that were rerouted from their actual flight path were rerouted without being molested. Meaning they weren't intercepted because the troops had been moved further away, both from Washington and New York, because there were military maneuvers which had at their theme exactly what was happening at the time, hijacked planes. Okay, so there was a military. So when they spotted the planes, there was confusion because they didn't know if those planes were in fact real hijackings or part of the scenario. Okay? The most protected airspace in the world is the airspace over Washington. Always has been. And still, allegedly, a plane managed to crash into the Pentagon.
Outside New York, of flight characteristics of a plane, but that doesn't matter, Mickey.
That doesn't matter. All the cameras, bar one, didn't capture anything hitting the Pentagon. Only one, and we only really have 3 or 4 frames.
4.
The towers themselves were built specifically because of their height. Because when they were built, they were the tallest buildings in the world, the Twin Towers. But they were built specifically to withstand the impact of a jumbo jet. Specifically. Right? Because that's what good architects and engineers do. They have contingencies. The towers themselves were hit fairly high up in the upper quadrants of the buildings themselves. Not at the bottom, not in the middle, but fairly high up. Right? So you'd think, fires burn up. Even if the jet fuel runs down, fires still burn up, right? But these buildings, the 2 buildings, I'm talking about Building 7 for now, they didn't crack and fall apart like you would expect them to in big chunks of concrete. They pulverized. They literally disintegrated. That's completely unheard of. And they disintegrated in a fairly small footprint, right? And Building 7 disintegrated completely in its footprint. If you are a demolition expert, you couldn't do a better job than had been done with Building 7. Couldn't do it.
In fact,
there are many other.
I'm just applauding the guys who did demo it. Well done, you guys.
Absolutely. In fact, there are many more anomalies that day. Traces of explosive, but Tucker Carlson, I know for a fact, is going to go into it. Thermate, okay, and as well as thermite had been found there. The building site, or the ruinous site that the towers were, which is really a large crime scene. Over 3,000 people were killed. The evidence, such as it was removed with amazing speed and shipped to a foreign location. So it couldn't be examined in detail. Okay. Now you would think that whoever is in charge, they want to make a good investigation and they catalog and document everything as best as they can. And in all the destruction, in all the inferno, and all the fire, dust, and smoke, they find the passport of Mohammed Atta right on top, unsinged. Unsinged. Yeah. Now there are many more anomalies with the pilots and how they were, being taught and how they couldn't fly and all that wonderful stuff, and the maneuvers that the planes actually performed were could only be done by someone who really knew what they were doing. But let's go a bit further.
But wait, also the airspeed of the aircraft, both aircraft, was too high for their low altitude, and the engines themselves also were a modded, like the military version mod on those aircraft. They're an upgraded model of engine that puts out more energy, so they could go faster at sea level. It's basically sea level. Those heights of those buildings is considered sea level.
Yeah. Now, these are all very important facts. But again, in and of themselves and by themselves mean nothing. Mm-hmm. You put it all together, all of a sudden you go, hang on, what? No. Okay, so what happened before the day and during the day and after the day immediately, those things are crazy. I do remember very clearly because I stayed up all night watching it.
Me too.
And I'm sure Dave did as well. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I do remember within hours, George Bush Jr. said, we shall never believe any crazy conspiracy theories regarding this attack.
Now, didn't that come out of left field?
I hadn't even thought to give this any conspiracy theory yet, right? But clearly, whoever he was the puppet for, and it was probably his father, Cheney and Rumsfeld and those guys, because he himself, I think he was a stooge. He's a nice enough stooge, but I think he was used by his father and his cronies. Okay, I don't think he was the evil mastermind of anything.
Who was his father? Ex-head of the CIA.
Ex-head of the CIA. Not only that, the only plane that was allowed to fly on September 12th was the Bin Laden family's plane, getting all the Bin Ladens out of America. Now, these are all the family members of Osama Bin Laden. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's be clear here. These are not coincidences. Arbustor Oil was bankrolled by the Bin Ladens. Arbustor Oil was the first company that George W. Bush Jr. had. The business ties between the Bushes and the Bin Ladens are very, very, very deep. Very deep. Again, put it to the side. What came out of 9/11 were a number of things. The invasion of Afghanistan and the eventual invasion of Iraq. Iraq had always been on the cards, and but be that as it may. Afghanistan, though, you ask yourself, why Afghanistan? Well, ostensibly because Osama bin Laden was in Afghanistan, and his people were in Afghanistan. They were in these, and I remember this because Rumsfeld and all the other guys, like not Cheney, but Powell and Condoleezza Rice, they were showing these diagrams of these amazing under the mountain fortresses, like Dr. Doom's fortress or whatever, right? Dr. Evil. Only evil light, not even a gallery. But yeah, so these none of them existed, of course. That was a complete nonsense. But nonetheless, Afghanistan was invaded. Now, okay, so they couldn't prove that Osama was there. It turns out he had been in Pakistan, not Afghanistan. But again, that's neither here nor there. So why Afghanistan? Why invade Afghanistan? There are a number of reasons for that, and I will give you some of them, because you might have forgotten. 90% of the world's heroin comes from Afghanistan. The biggest poppy crops in the world are grown in Afghanistan. Poppy, of course, you cut the pod, you get the white milk. That's opium. You refine it, you get heroin. The Taliban, just prior to 9/11, had started burning the poppy fields. That wasn't very good. And the CIA was very, very unhappy, because the CIA finances most of its activities, or a big chunk of it, with drug money, specifically heroin.
It could be their poppy side hustle, Mickey.
Their side hustle. There are no poppy plants or coca trees, for that matter, in America, in North America. They aren't. They don't exist. What people grow there a lot is marijuana, and they make a lot of methamphetamines, but they don't grow poppies and they don't grow coca trees. So they import it. And the CIA, and this has been going on since the Vietnam War, and this is the heroin trade, and the cocaine trade has been going on since the American actions in South America. And there were many, as you know, back in the 70s and 80s. But they're bringing in the drugs from those countries to organize and pay for their activities. Also, Wall Street runs to a huge extent on drug money. Massive. It's all washed on Wall Street. Okay? So they started burning it, and the CIA didn't like it. So that's one. The other one, there was this gas pipeline planned to go from Central Asia, which has massive reserves of natural gas, and the pipeline was meant to take that gas and then through Afghanistan, pump it through, to the Persian Gulf, etc., and easily make it easily accessible for American, tanker ships to come and get it, take it. Initially, the Taliban said yes, let's do it. Then they changed their mind, and of course, as soon as Afghanistan was invaded, they started building that pipeline as well. So, and there are many other reasons as well why Afghanistan was invaded, but those are key ones. From a geopolitical point of view, what America really wanted, and I urge you to read Brzezinski's book, The Great Game, I think it's called. I've got it on my shelf here. It's called. I'll take it out. Don't worry about it. Doesn't matter. But Brzezinski's book, read it if you can. Zbigniew Brzezinski. The Great Chessboard or something. But they wanted military bases close to both Russia and China, and the stands like Turkmenistan, Kazakhstan, etc., those stands, which are in Central Asia and perfectly placed to be right at the doorstep of China and Russia, of course, lent themselves perfectly for that purpose. And there are American bases there and have been since 9/11. Okay, because of course these were independent countries after the collapse of the Soviet Union. So yes, they did welcome in the American bases and the money that brought with that as well. And what it also led to were the Patriot Act 1 and 2, which took a lot of freedoms away from the American people, and it gave a lot of power, additional power, I should say, to the police, to the courts, to the executive, to detain people indefinitely. As soon as you say terrorism, you can take the person and throw away the key, essentially. It also led to the creation of the Homeland Security Office, or Homeland Security, right? That was a new agency, the first agency since the FBI, by the way, that was created. So it goes on. It goes on. And it's all about getting the most out of every situation for the most people. The war in Afghanistan went nowhere for various reasons, mostly because it's a terrain you can't win in. You can't really deploy heavy tanks and heavy machinery. Even your bombing runs are completely pointless because it is so mountainous and it's so hard to get around. There are no good targets. In fact, Rumsfeld himself said that. There are no good targets in Afghanistan. So they went to Iraq. Again, Iraq for various reasons. And when they had bombed the hell out of Iraq, they got the contracts. Bechtel and Halliburton got the contracts, billions, hundreds of billions worth of contracts to rebuild Iraq. Couldn't really rebuild much in Afghanistan because there wasn't that much in the first place. And then, of course, there was recently the disastrous withdrawal under Biden from Afghanistan, and where we left, where the Americans left all of their allies to fend for themselves. But Iraq was defeated and broken up, it broke up, as I predicted, into 3 spheres. And it hasn't been the same since. It also led directly to the creation of ISIS and the ISIS Caliphate and anything that has come out of that since then. And we could go on. I don't want to, though. But my point here is this. An enormous amount of people got an enormous amount of benefits out of the 9/11 attacks. Right? Politically, financially, power from a perspective of power, influence, global dominance, etc., etc. It is incredible. It is astounding if you really start looking at it. And I urge you to do that, to have a really good look, because we're coming up to the anniversary of it, right? It's just around the corner. Now Epstein. Now Epstein was running a global child sex trafficking ring. Apparently, thousands of victims. Thousands. Not 2, not 5, thousands. Right? And a lot of these victims are coming forward and they're saying, we're going to put our own list together. We are going to name names. Hasn't happened yet. I just pray for their safety, is what I do. Okay? And Donald Trump is terrified of what is going to come out there. Now, I have no idea what he did. I look at the guy. He's not a nice guy. If you're a woman, he's not going to be your friend. Okay? He's a misogynist. He's a groper. He's a predator. You know, he's all these things, right? I'm not saying he's a pedophile because I don't know. I have no idea, right? But he was friends with Epstein for a long, long time. And apparently they palled around. They were buddies. You know, they're doing what the bros do when they go out on the town, I guess, whatever that is. You know, or even globally, they would fly around and have fun. And yeah, he wasn't a really nice human being. And Roy Cohn is really the person that made Trump who he is today. Roy Cohn, who was a mobster lawyer, who was also involved in the McCarthyan era of a communist prosecution or persecution in the States. He made sure that I think the Jewish couple that stole the nuclear secrets got the death penalty. He was the guy that made sure that happened. And he was, like I said, connected to the mob. And everything Donald Trump does, Donald Trump's playbook is all Roy Cohn. All of it. Attack, attack, attack. Never admit defeat. Never admit anything. Lie. Lie, lie, lie. But always attack. Never admit defeat. Never back down. Okay, you always have to be in the offensive. And if you say this, it's really interesting. Yes, it is Trump's MO, but it is actually the MO for the entire administration. Right? You don't back down. You don't apologize. Hey, Freddy. You don't back down ever. You attack, you attack, you attack. Now, if you don't know Roy Cohn, I urge you to read up on him. Very interesting character. He was actually gay and he had to hide that all of his life, really, pretty much, until he contracted AIDS, and I think he died of that as well. But he made Donald Trump who Donald Trump is today, and really gave him his edge. Now, what do the Epstein files contain? Now, I don't know. What I can tell you, though, is that the real compromise, the real compromising material that exists, especially on Donald Trump, I can't speak for anything else, but especially on Donald Trump, is not with the CIA. It is not with any government organization in the US. It's not with the FBI. It's not with the Department of Justice. There will be some stuff there, sure, but the real stuff, the juicy stuff, the reputation and character destroying stuff is with the Mossad and Putin, or more specifically with Benjamin Netanyahu and Vladimir. Those two guys, they have it. That's why Donald Trump hasn't done a single thing. And yeah, he said a few things. Oh, we're gonna give him an ultimatum, and then we're gonna give him more. I don't know, what was it? We're gonna put in some sanctions or whatever. He hasn't done a single thing. An actual thing that would hurt either Putin or Netanyahu. Not one thing. He talked a lot. Talk. Right? Nothing. He's done nothing at all to hurt these two guys. And he's not even giving the Ukrainians weapons. He's not. He's selling the weapons to the Europeans, and then the Europeans can do whatever they like. They can give it to the Ukrainians if they want, right? So Donald Trump is doing nothing that is directly helping the Ukrainians. He even shut down access to the intelligence services to the Ukrainians for a while. Okay. And again, I repeat, the only reason that Elon Musk had the access that he had to Donald Trump at the White House is because Elon Musk is in cahoots with Putin. Those two guys are chums. They're close bosom buddies. They've spent a lot of time on the phone. And you do remember that initially Elon Musk was backing DeSanto before he started backing Trump. In fact, he didn't like Trump. He thought Trump was a muppet. Right? They hated each other, and all of a sudden they're best buddies, and now they hate each other again. Whatever. And Musk said something very interesting when he was angry. I think he's a very emotional kind of guy, and he's on the spectrum, so he can't really regulate well. He said that Donald Trump is in the Epstein files. He tweeted that, and then he deleted the tweet and he apologized for it, but he did tweet it in a moment of anger, I'm sure. And he knows this because Putin told him. The richest man of the world is in bed with the most, what's the best word, Dave, to describe Putin? Not evil. He is that, but he is the most conniving and Machiavellian character that is alive today. Putin has an uncanny ability to survive and retain and increase his power, irrespective of any costs. And he is in bed with Elon Musk. Right? Donald Trump is a side player. I'm sorry to say. Right? And the only reason Donald Trump is where he is, and I do believe that the Russians did their utmost to make sure that he won. I mean, Elon Musk put $250 billion into the election. $250 million. $250 million he put into the election. $250 million, my apologies. $250 million. 250, that's a lot of money. So this is where we are. This is a mind-blowing amalgamation of circumstances right now, this week and next week. It's explosive. The Tucker Carlson, and he's got a huge profile, obviously, right? Tucker Carlson, right? The Tucker Carlson docudrama or documentary or whatever he's going to bring out. The release of information about Epstein, the White House's continued attempt to block the release of any information or the denial. What I don't understand is this, Dave. Why does Donald Trump deny that the birthday card is his? He was his friend. He contributed a birthday card into this birthday book. They were buddies. It might be lewd. It might be unbecoming. It might be misogynistic. But that's okay. We all know that about Trump. It's not new. There's nothing new about any of this. So if Donald Trump just said, yeah, I gave him the card, it was probably in poor taste back then, but this is how it was. But no, he can't. He can't admit it. He can't help himself. Maybe he can't tell the truth anymore. Maybe it's not possible for him. I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. It's just insane. Do you think he's got, what is, okay, look, I've been talking a lot. What is your take on these things? I know I mentioned a lot of things here.
Yes, you have, and that's okay. It's okay. It's good to put a story together. So, I was actually the whole time I was thinking of rollerball, how the world is run by corporations, and how corporations today are actually run by the most wealthy of the people. They're owned by, BlackRock and the other one. They own almost everything that exists today as like the top 1,000 companies, the 10,000 companies they have stakes in. And even BlackRock owns not a majority, a minority amount of stock in both Wesfarmers and Woolworths and Coles here in Australia, for that matter. And it doesn't matter to them who we decide to use. They still make money off us. It's extraordinary. At some point, when the corporations decide that I've got an image for this one. Hang on a minute. Middle screen. So I'm looking through the story of it, but there was the Bulletin put out a thing that says the new world order, and it's got a picture of Trump on it. It's quite interesting when you think about what it means for the Great Reset, and that corporations will be eventually in control of everybody. I think of Total Recall, Mackie. I think of Rollerball, when they just replace the person's wife.
Yeah.
It's just a corporation to do that. Who are you?
Yeah.
I'm your wife now. Okay, because it was a better look in Rollerball to have that wife, and of course it was a plant in the Total Recall, and it was all run by corporations. So when you say the words billionaire, or we call them parasites, when you talk about those folk in amongst all of this, who are their pals? It's all the people at the top who all do the same thing. They all hang out at the same places. They all go to the same, yacht clubs, and they're at all of those places. They do rich people things with other rich people. So, I've got the picture of that card, Mackie, on screen, and it's Donald Trump contributed several signed drawings to charity auctions, but he says that how Donald Trump alleged note to Jeffrey Epstein compares to his previous drawings and letters. Extraordinary. That I don't think that, if you were a person trying not to fit a storyline, then why are you doing this? Oh, it kind of matches all the other ones we found, didn't it? Oh, no, it didn't. Yes, it did. Look, it's the same. Yeah, you're right, it did. How good am I? Isn't that a great drawing? Tell me it's great. Tell me how good I am.
The one thing. Yeah, the one thing I noticed, it was the drawing of a young woman. If you want to analyze the drawing, as it were.
Yeah, I don't want to put those ones up. Yeah, I know. I get you. So, but this is the problem. I know that we're focusing a lot. Our media is focusing on the ground. Mickey and I are trying to keep it above there. But when you hear the stories that even we're talking about, they're distractions. I don't want to be in the noise at the bottom, which is the when you used to have a black and white television in the olden days when it was off channel. It was that. Yeah. It was we called it snow. That's the snow, which is the background stories that are keeping us all distracted from the real things. Mickey, the tracking of Trump's promises is hilarious.
I know. I mean,
in the
literally
link,
none.
I know, yeah. But in the link it says classified records kept. He didn't keep the promise. It's not all released. Oh, by executive order. Yeah. He might have signed something, but nothing got released.
So he released a minimum. So, yeah, I would say none of them were kept, is what I'm saying, right?
Yeah. He could have blown his nose on a handkerchief and go, there you go. That's enough. And all the cuts to federal money and everything like this, there's so many that are in progress. Kept, you know what? Not so much. I think the declaration of a national energy emergency to spur more drilling, he did that.
But is that a good promise?
I don't know. Who am I to judge, Mackie, who's doing the right thing? The American voter should be, it's underlined and it's all in all caps and italics and bolded.
So
be aware of what they've done.
Yeah, wherever it says complicated, we can confidently say no, he hasn't done it. In progress also means he hasn't done it. Kept is arguable. I would say no, he did not release all of the files. Okay. And they are redacted. So he didn't release the unredacted files, so redacted is completely pointless. I can go to the FOI, okay, and get those files too. It's all I'm looking at is at a black page. That's what I'm looking at. Thank you very much. Pointless.
But the links to all of these things will be in the bottom of the video, so do check them out yourself. Correct. And read along.
Yeah, he has kept. I want to say, he has kept none of the ones that I would consider good. Okay, he hasn't. He pardoned all the people that were convicted or charged on January 6th.
What can I?
There were some series. Oh, you've got to be kidding me already. Okay. Thank you everybody for listening. This is the music. This has been Platos Cave. Don't go anywhere. Something else is going to come up. But do check out Trump's promises. We'll be back on Thursday with another Plato's Cave. In the meantime, though, Dave,
be safe, everyone. And do like, share, subscribe, and comment. Share.